This is session 2, part 2.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing?
What about fear? What would your attitude be to, well, let's just say you'd fear your emotions, wouldn't you? If you had the wrong attitude, you'd go, I can't do it, I'm terrified of it, rather than recognising this is just something I'm going to feel, it'll pass through me, and I'm not afraid of it.
How many times I hear that? Man, I say, you've got this, I can't feel that. I can't feel it. She's not saying, I can't. Really what they're saying is, I won't. Or even more specifically, I refuse to, is really what you're saying. Now, a person with the right understanding of emotions wouldn't say, I'm refusing to deal with every emotion that comes along, would they? If you were 100% committed to being 100% your emotional self, that is completely the opposite of what you need to do, is it not? Yeah. So you wouldn't do that.
Okay.
But how many of us do that? Pretty often. I can't. No, it's all gone now. It's gone, done. You know.
How does it affect our relationships with other people? Eloisa? And their emotions.
And their emotions.
And our emotions.
So how does that affect other people and our emotions?
Our relationships with other people in regards to emotion. So how do we deal with emotion when we're around others, when we have the wrong attitude?
You don't feel it, you try and get out of it. You can't. I
We do... Yeah, Lincoln?
You alter how you feel to suit them.
Yeah.
Or, so rather than...
It's not what I see most of you doing, though. Yeah, you blame them, most of you, don't you? Anyone's around you and you feel something, it's their fault, right? Isn't that what you do? Blame others. Yeah, blame the person you're with, because they're easier to blame than your mum and dad.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we do a lot of the time? No? You don't do that? Okay, so I'll rub that off. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen.
I agree, Lincoln, you do that thing that you just mentioned, though.
Sorry?
I do agree that Lincoln often does that thing that he mentioned.
What was that?
With certain people. He alters himself to suit certain people.
I agree, but if you look at even that, isn't it sort of almost a passive-aggressive way to just get what you want? Why would you alter yourself? Why do you alter yourself?
To please them.
To please them. Why do you want to please them?
To get what I want.
To get what we want. What is it that you want?
Could be the admiration, acknowledgement, sex,
approval,
on it goes.
acceptance. So what is it that you're actually avoiding?
Feeling the real emotion.
Which is, I'm not going to be admired unless I do this. I'm not going to be accepted
Wanted.
unless I do this. Isn't it? Yeah. So it's a great way to avoid some emotion, but it's a passive-aggressive way of avoiding emotion. You're really, in a way, blaming the other person for the fact that you've changed your life for them. So, in other words, you're lacking the courage to just be yourself and let them have their response.
Yeah, in case they don't like me.
Yeah. So you don't want to feel that they don't like you. And so you lack the courage to feel your own emotion. It's not about them, really. It's about you see. This is where it's a passive-aggressive way of blaming someone else. When you change your behaviour, your demeanour, in order to please another person, it's a passive-aggressive way for you to avoid certain emotions inside of yourself about how they may act if you are yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then in the end, when you lived with them for a while, you go, I'd done this for you, I'd done that for you. As if, because you're addicted to what's coming back to you, you see. And that's why we do it. We don't have the courage to actually go, no, I'm going to be myself. And if you're just angry about that, then be angry about that. If you don't like me, don't like me. If you don't want to have sex with me, don't have sex with me. If you don't, we don't want to take the consequences of the person's response to us being real. So we wouldn't do that if we were 100% emotionally involved, would we? We'd go, okay, this is not about preventing her response, in your case, her response mostly, or someone else's response to your emotions. It's not about that. She needs to have her emotion and I need to have mine. That's how you would feel if you were 100% like into feeling the emotion. Let them have their rage, let them have their sadness, let them have their shame, let them have their, whatever it is that they're feeling, let them have it. Because that's the gift you can give them by allowing them to have an emotion without your judgment and without your investment in them feeling something.
So when we have the wrong attitude to emotions, we're often afraid of other people's emotions.
And fear of other people's emotions is really just fear of your own emotions. Does that make sense? Because that is really just fear of my own emotions. Because why are we afraid of others' emotions? Because we're afraid of our own response to their emotions. So that's just really fear of my own emotions. Can you see how narcissistic and selfish we are? like most of the time we're just, we're trying. Even people sometimes who sit down and explain to somebody, look, do you see this and do you see that and do you see this? A lot of it's self-absorbed because the reality is you're trying to prevent the other person from feeling something so that you don't have to feel something that they're doing. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Like, did I say that too fast? You notice how I can say things fairly fast because I understand these things, right? But we're often just so invested in feeling the other person and helping the other person not have an emotional response, and we're only doing it for selfish reasons. We're only doing it so that we don't have to feel something if they were to feel something different than they feel. And that's when you're 100% emotionally engaged, you want the other person to feel everything, and you want yourself to feel everything. You don't want any of you to avoid it. Yeah?
It's actually quite abusive to do that and then call it, I'm doing this because I just need to be truthful or because I love you, to come and tell you something so that you stop doing something that's bothering me.
The only purpose you should have for telling another person something about themselves that they do that's out of harmony with love is so that you can help them to become more loving. Can you see that? If you were a truly loving person, the only motivation you would have is to help them become more loving. You wouldn't have a motivation of having them stop what they're doing to you. You wouldn't have a motivation of making your life easier or better. You wouldn't have any of those motivations. You would just have the one single motivation. I love you and I want to help you get over this problem. That's all you'd feel. Now, in most relationships, that's not what we feel, right? We go, you've got this problem, you've got that problem, you've got this problem, right? And the other person goes, you've got this problem, you've got that problem, you've got this problem. Sure, I've got this problem, but you've got that problem too. And yeah, sure, I've got that problem, but you've got this problem too. And the only reason why we're telling each other what problems we both have is so the other person stops their behaviour so I don't have to feel about what they're doing, which is actually a selfish motivation. And that's why it ends up in an argument in the end.
It's a lovely feeling to reach the point of feeling gratitude for truth, because the experience that I'm having now is that I feel like, because I feel truth's a gift when I receive it, and I have so much gratitude for the truth that I've already received from God and my soulmate, there's a whole new motivation in when I tell truth to others. And it's actually a feeling of like, no, this is, if you're open to receive this, I'm going to tell you as much as I can, because I know how life-changing it is. And it's actually the thing that motivates me through a lot of fear sometimes, because I can see the beauty and the gift of truth. Whereas before I was very afraid, and I sat in the fear, because I didn't even really know if truth was such, from a soul perspective, if it was so great to actually receive truth. But now that I feel so excited about truth, I feel really drawn to, whenever there's an opportunity and a sister or a brother is open to hearing from me, I'll say a truth, even if I might be afraid of how they're going to respond to it, because it's awesome.
And I just
Really.
feel like sometimes, don't you realise that I'm pretty frightened about some of the things that happen? Like, honestly, like, I get asked all sorts of questions. Most people I know, if I respond truthfully, I know what they're going to do beforehand. I can feel the emotion in them. So I feel what the primary motivation is going to be. I feel like they're going to probably do with the truth that I give them. So let's say you knew in advance that someone was going to bop you in the nose if you said a certain thing. What would you do? For most people, they'd try to not say it, right? They'd try to say it, or they say it in a roundabout way so the person doesn't even understand, like that. Or they try to tone it down for public consumption or whatever it is, right? I can't do that because I can feel that when I do that, I harm my relationship with God. So what I try to do instead is I try to say exactly what the problem is, fully knowing what that person's going to do with the information I've just given them. Like, I know when people are just going to go off and, like, there are people who write now, they're dedicated to writing internet sites about me that are just about how bad I am. And I know they're going to do it beforehand. I can feel the emotion in them that would cause them to do it, and I know they're going to do it beforehand. And they've asked me for some truth. What do? Well, if you love them, what would you do? You'd give them the truth in the best possible way that you're capable of giving it at the time. That's what you'll do. And you won't be concerned about what they'll do with it. You'll hope, in fact, that even though they have that emotion in them that you can feel, that they might act differently. They have a choice to act differently, and you're hoping that their choice will be engaged differently.
You empower their choice by doing
You empower
that,
their
don't you?
choice.
They
That's
don't-
what you do.
Yeah.
You
Without
allow
knowing
them.
truth, sometimes they're not even aware of the choice to deal with the error or not. And by showing them the error that's there, you give them the choice to decide, okay, I could look at that or I might not. But without speaking up, there's no choice.
Yeah. And when you withhold giving people truth, you have already made a decision for them that they're not capable of receiving it. So you're basically saying to them that you believe they're not capable of actually receiving that truth. You've made the decision for them. You've taken away their free will, actually, by making the decision for them. Right? And you see it happening all the time in relationships where one party makes the decision for the other party, not from an outward, I'm making the decision for you, Mary, but from the thing of withholding information from the other half, right? So the other half doesn't have an emotional response of some kind. That's making a decision for the other half to not feel something. You've already made the decision before it began. They don't have it. If you had the proper understanding of emotion, you'd never do it. Can you see? Because you want the other person to have a full emotional response to the thing they're faced with, and to go through it, and to experience it, and to release it. That's what your desire for them is, even though it might not even be their desire for themselves. That would be your desire for them. So you'd engage that. Make sense?